Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and today we're going to make the fan stitch baby blanket. This is another in the Easy Beginner series. I think you'll find this to be very achievable, especially if you're a beginner and haven't been crocheting very long, and it'll definitely give you practice on the double crochet. The only thing new that you're going to be learning is you're going to learn how to do a picot, which you'll find is very easy. It just involves working a slip stitch and 3 chains. Well, let's go ahead and get started. For this Easy Beginner fan stitch baby blanket, I'm going to be using these 2 colors. I'm actually going to be using 2 scans of this color and 3 of the solid, but do feel free to use whichever colors you like if you just want to mix solids, or if you even just wanted to make it one solid color without changing yarns. These yarns, Stitch Studio by Nicole, Storybook Fanfare, and then this other is called Storybook Lullaby. These were both purchased at my local AC Moore store, but feel free to use any other size 3 weight, or if you want to use a regular worsted weight yarn, just make sure that you upsize the hook for that. Here are the stats on these yarns. This is 100% acrylic. This scan has 265 yards per scan. And again, this is a number 3, which is a light or a DK weight yarn. And let me show you something here, that the yardage is slightly smaller. On the variegated, it's 255 yards per scan. Again, I'm going to need 3 of these and 2 of these, and I'll go ahead and put the yarn estimate numbers right along the bottom of the screen there so that you can have that should you substitute another type of yarn. And you're also going to be using, or I'm going to be using, a size H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. And as always, I suggest that you have a yarn needle on hand, especially for this project, because we are going to be changing yarn colors and you're going to want to be careful how we do that. And also a pair of scissors so that you can switch colors without tearing the yarn or anything like that. This is very important. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on our crochet. Now we're ready to begin. We're going to start with a slip knot. And just to show you how I like to chain, I like to start in sets of 5, so in case I get interrupted, I know which number I'm on, especially since we are going to be chaining 127 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I reposition my fingers. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As I do this, I want to remind you to try to do this on the loose side, so that the chain is not too tight when you work in it. If you tend to crochet too tightly, I would encourage you to bump up to perhaps a size I needle or hook just for the chain, and then go back to the regular size hook after that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my chain of 127 chains. One more thing I wanted to mention, because I get a lot of correspondence, which is welcomed, about how to make your projects larger or smaller. If you want to make this larger than approximately 30 inches across, what you're going to need to do is add stitches to the existing 127 stitches here in increments of 5 or in multiples of 5. If you want the blanket to be smaller, you simply subtract multiples of 5 from the starting chain. To begin, we're going to start in the 4th chain from hook. So we're going to find 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 4th chain right here, and we are going to work 2 double crochets, a chain 1, and 2 more double crochets, all in that 1 chain space. Okay, just like that. Now we're going to skip 4 chains. 1, I'll use my hook to point them. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to skip those, and in the next chain we're going to work 2 double crochets. 1, 2, and we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work 2 more double crochets. 1, 2 in that same chain space, and that is the way the fan stitch is going to look throughout this project. Let me do a couple more of these with you. Now we're going to skip 4 more chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the next, we're going to work again 2 double crochets, a chain 1, and then 2 double crochets, again all in that same chain space. So now we have 3 fan stitches. So go ahead and work this all the way across your starting chain. After working this all the way across the row, we're going to skip the next 2 chains, and in that last chain we're going to work a double crochet. So let's pause and take a look, and you might want to take the time to double check to make sure that you have the 2 double crochets, a chain 1, and the 2 double crochets evenly spaced across your row. Okay, because if you have a mistake at this point, it's much more simple to correct it than when you're at the end of yet another row. Okay, so after we complete this row, that's the end of row 1, we're ready to go on to row 2. We're going to turn, and we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to skip the first stitch, and we're going to skip the next 2 double crochets as well. And in that chain 1 space, that hole between the middle of the fan stitch, we're going to work another fan stitch, which is 2 double crochets, a chain 1, and 2 double crochets, all worked in that same space. Okay, just like this. And we're going to do this all the way across the row. We are going to skip the next 2 double crochets here and the next 2 double crochets here as well until we get to the next chain 1 space, and then we work another fan stitch, which is 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets in that chain 1 space. Now if you're not really familiar with the double crochet, I encourage you to go back to my beginning videos, which is on my Bonnie Bay Crochet channel, and take a look at that. But should you need to slow my work down at all, in this video, if you look at the bottom right side here, there's a little thing that looks like a gear. If you click on that, you can actually slow this video down, or really any video on YouTube that you would like. You can slow down to a variety of speeds. Okay, so I'm going to do this a couple more times with you. Skip these 2 stitches and skip the next 2 stitches, and then working in that chain 1 space in between the fan stitch, go ahead and work 2 double crochets, a chain 1, and 2 more double crochets, and we're going to call this a fan stitch. And let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like now. Okay, so I'm going to have you go ahead and we're going to work this all the way across the row. I'll do it with you one more time. Skip these 2 and skip the next 2 double crochets, working in that chain 1 space, 2 double crochets, a chain 1, and 2 double crochets. So go ahead and work this all the way across the row. After working these all the way across the row, working in the chain 1 space only, we're going to work a double crochet in the space right here where the turning chain was worked. So just work a double crochet there, and now we are going to turn, and we're going to repeat this. So I'm going to show you how to do this again. Chain 2, and what I'm going to show you is pretty much what we're going to do from this point on. Okay, we're going to skip the first stitch here as always, and the next 2 double crochets, and we're going to work the fan stitch, which is 2 double crochets,
chain 1 and then 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space in between the fan stitches. And like we did in row number 2, we're going to skip these next 2 double crochets and the next 2, and we're going to go to the next chain 1 space in between the fan stitch, and we're going to work a fan stitch in there. 2 double crochets, chain 1 and 2 double crochets. So I'm going to give you a longer assignment here. I'm going to have you work this all the way across and back. So work this for 2 more rows, and then I will show you how to change colors. Don't forget that when you get to the end, let me see if I can find it here, the end of this row, after you work the fan stitch in that chain 1 space, we're just going to work a double crochet in the chain 2 space here and then turn. Okay, so go ahead and work this for 2 more rows using the solid color. So in order to do this, I have worked all but the last stitch. I still need to work the stitch, the double crochet in that turning chain, and this is the way I'm going to do that. I'm going to wrap the hook, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Now I'm going to stop. I'm going to grab the yarn that I'm switching to, and I'm going to pull that through for that last step. Now I'm going to turn, chain 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to go ahead and work another row. I'm going to skip the next 3 stitches, and I'm just going to start this row. We'll do 2 double crochets, chain 1 and 2 more double crochets. So you can see that's going to look fun as I change. But now I wanted to show you this, is how do you deal with this so that these stitches do not come undone? Great question. Let's go ahead and I'm going to clip the original color I was just working with. And what I like to do, since I know that I'm going to be working a perimeter round all the way around the blanket at the end, it's not a problem if I tie a knot here. And I know some people like to do this without knots. If that's you, feel free to do whatever method you choose, but I'm going to do a simpler method here. I'm just going to tie a knot like this and push it kind of close to your work, and go ahead and pull it tight because that's not going to come out. We're going to deal with this again once we work our perimeter round. So there, it looks fine. Okay, it's going to be pretty seamless, and once we do the perimeter round, we're going to cover up all the knots and everything, and it'll be all hidden, and it'll look great. All right, so what we're going to do now is we are just going to work 4 rows of the fan stitch, and just going to continue that for 4 rows. And as I said before, once we do that, we will switch the yarn again, and using the same technique that I did here so that the yarn looks seamless in starting the new color. And so go ahead and switch after every 4 rounds. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will show you what I have after I complete these stripes. Now that I've completed a total of 12 stripes, I'll go ahead, I will give you a better view of this towards the end. But I have 7 stripes with the solid color and 5 stripes with the ombre color yarn. And so now I am ready to start working my border. But before I do that, I want to change back to my ombre colored yarn. So I'll go ahead and show you that yarn change. So I'm going to just gently pull this last stitch out like that, and we're going to bring this new color in and go ahead and give it a chain. And I'm going to go ahead and clip this yarn of the solid color. I'm going to go ahead and knot these together. Okay. I can I can make that knot a little bit better once well, let's go ahead and do that now. Make sure that it's very secure. Now we are going to make our first corner. Now this first corner is going to be a little different. I have 1, 2, let's go ahead and do 3 chains. That's going to serve as one of our double crochets. Now our fan stitch has been worked with 2 double crochets, 1 chain, and 2 double crochets. For the corners, I'm actually going to double that. I'm going to make 4 double crochets. Now this counts as 1. Remember, the chain counts as 1. So, and I just made the second one. 3 and 4. And then I'm going to do a chain. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and do 2 chains for this corner. And I'm going to do 4 more double crochets. 1, 2. I'm just going to crochet over that knot there. 3 and 4. Now I'm going to obviously have to hide these strands later, and I will deal with that when the time comes. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to be working alongside the edging. Now notice I didn't turn from this last row here, so we are going to start working the fan stitch along the edging, and this is the way I'm going to do this. It's going to be very easy. You don't have to do a perimeter round first. This will be our perimeter round. We're going to skip the next row end here, and then we're going to work a fan stitch, which is the 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets in that row end space. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to skip the next row end here, and then I'm going to go to the next row end and work that again. 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. Okay, so I'm going to have you work that all the way across on the row ends. Again, skip the next stitch, or rather the row end space here, and then work another fan stitch in the next row end. Those 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work this all the way to the next corner. After working all the way across the row edges, I'm going to have you skip the last 2 row edges, and then we're going to work in this turning chain right here, which was part of the very beginning of the foundation, and we're going to work 4 double crochets, just like we did, well, sort of like we did at the beginning, because when we were establishing this, we were using a chain 3, but we're going to do 4 double crochets. Go ahead and chain 2 and 4 more double crochets for that corner turn. And I want to speak about one other thing. Having finished this row edge with all these strings, I am going to wait until the very end, until the border is completely done, because I think there's going to be a lot more fabric with this border in order to weave some of these loose ends into. Okay, you can do however you want. I am going to wait till the very end to do that, because I'm actually crocheting over some of these knots. It's hiding them somewhat, but once we get this border done, we'll have a lot more fabric to work with and to hide those loose ends. After working those 8 double crochets and that chain 2 for the corner, we're going to skip the next space here and the next space, and we're going to go to the 3rd space, which is where the 2nd of the fan stitches were crocheted, and we're going to crochet a fan stitch there, which is 2 double crochets, a chain 1, and 2 double crochets. Let me show you what we should have here. That way this corner doesn't get too crowded there with the stitches. And so go ahead and work that in each of the spaces where the fan stitches were worked for row 1. Okay, let me show you this again. So we're going to skip these chains here and then go right to the spot where the next fan stitch was worked. And we'll work 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets. Okay, so we are skipping this one just for the sake of space and for unity, so that it doesn't look too crowded there. So go ahead and work these all the way across until you get to the last space. Yes, we are going to skip that last space, but I'll show that to you when we get there. But just for now, go ahead and work these fan stitches all the way across. After working this all the way across, go ahead and skip the chain and skip the place where this last fan stitch was worked, and work in the next chain space. You'll have a combination of a chain and a double crochet there coming at that intersection. So go ahead and work 4 double crochets, chain 2, 1, 2, and then work 4 more double crochets. Just want to make sure these corners are nice and clearly defined. Okay, so just as we did in the last side, let me go back to that side here where we skipped 2 row ends. We're going to do that again so that this blanket is symmetrical. We're going to skip this row end and this row end, and we're going to start way up here with another fan stitch, which will be 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets. I'm going to go ahead and pause so that you can see that corner. Okay, these stitches are going to continue to grow, so don't worry about if there's any bulging there. It shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so now we're going to go back to what we did at the very beginning of this round. We're going to skip the next row end, and in the next row end we're going to work 2 double crochets, a chain 1, and 2 double crochets. Okay, so go ahead and work that all the way across this last end. Once you've worked those fan stitches in every other row end all the way across, now we do have one side left to do. So we're going to skip this last row end, and then in this space here, which is going to be our corner, we're going to work again 4 double crochets, a chain 2, and then 4 more double crochets. And I'll pause so that you can see what I've worked there. So after working that corner space here, go ahead and skip this fan stitch just like we did at the other end of this blanket, and then go to the next fan stitch and work those 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets in that space. This, I believe, is going to help to square up the blanket a bit, and so that the edges don't ruffle out too much. Now if you wanted to work in that first stitch, you can, but I think it's going to add just a little bit of unevenness to it. So now we're going to go ahead and do this all the way across, working those fan stitches in the top chain 1 space. Go ahead and do, let me go ahead and pull the rest of that through. Go ahead and do that all the way across. After working all the way across, go ahead and skip this last fan stitch, and we're going to connect with a slip stitch to the turning chain of that very first corner. Okay, so now we've completed 1 row. So now we're going to, or actually 1 round, let's go ahead and slip stitch across, and you can do this without turning like this. We're going to slip stitch to that first stitch, or actually the first double crochet, second, and then slip stitch to the next stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch right into the corner just like this. After slip stitching to that chain 2 corner, we're going to work the special corner stitch. This is the last round. We're going to chain 3, this does count as a double crochet, and that's our second stitch and our third stitch. Every third double crochet we're going to do something a little special here. Again, this chain counts as a double crochet, 2, 3. Then we're going to chain 3, and we're going to make a picot by taking our hook and inserting it in to the top of that double crochet, and pull up a loop and pull a loop through. And this way we make a little picot at the top of that third stitch. And so now we're going to do 2 more stitches. 1, these are double crochets, 2, and the third double crochet like this, we're going to do another picot. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to do a slip stitch in the top of that double crochet just like we did before. And we're going to do this again. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and then on the third double crochet we're going to do another picot, chain 3, and slip stitch in the top of that double crochet. Okay, this is what we have so far. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, and then we're going to do 2 more stitches, 2 more double crochets in that same space. Then I'm going to give you the count so that this is not totally overwhelming and confusing. So we have 1, which is the chain, 2, 3, and we have the picot here, 4, 5, 6, another picot at the top of there, 7, 8, 9, where we have the picot, 10, and then 11. So we actually have 11 double crochets and 3 picots in that corner stitch. After completing the corner with those 3 picots, we're going to look at this 4 double crochet cluster, and we're going to work in between the second and the third stitch, which right in the center of this cluster. We're going to go ahead and split that, and we're going to work 1, 2 double crochets, and then a third double crochet. After that third, we're going to work a picot, 1, 2, 3 chains, and then we're going to slip stitch in the top of that double crochet, and then we're going to work 2 more double crochets. Okay, just like that. And we're going to work that in between each of the fan stitches. So we'll skip the space here, and in this next space we will work 3 double crochets, a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and insert the hook in the top of that double crochet, pull up a loop, pull it through it, so you have your picot, and then 2 more double crochets. I just want to stop and show that to you. So you're going to have a total of 5 double crochets worked in each of the fan stitches. Now, of course, the corner is going to look like this, and I will show that to you one more time when we get to the next corner. But we're going to have 1, 2, 3 double crochets, work the chain 3 picot, and then 2 more double crochets. So go ahead and work that all the way to the next corner. After working these all the way across, now we are going to work another one of these 5 double crochet with the picot clusters in between the 4 stitches here. So go ahead and work those 3 double crochets, a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then a slip stitch in the top of that stitch, and then 2 more double crochets. Let me just stop there so that you can see that. Now we're going to work another corner in this corner stitch. And the way we do that is we work 1, 2, 3 double crochets, followed by that chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and work that picot in the top of that double crochet, and then 1, 2, 3 more stitches, and then work another picot and slip stitch in the top of that, and then do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, chain 3, and slip stitch in the top of that double crochet, and then 2 more double crochets. Okay, so this is for that turning of the corner, and after we've done that, we're going to be working along another edge. So go ahead and skip the next 2 stitches, and again, this is the 4 stitch cluster of the corner that we worked the previous round. So work between the 2nd and the 3rd stitch, just that space. Just go ahead and make a space there and work 3 double crochets just like we've been doing. Chain 3 and a slip stitch to form that picot in the top of that double crochet, and then 2 more double crochets. And just like we've done on the other side, go ahead and work one of these 5 double crochet with the picot clusters in the top of every one of the fan stitches across. 1, 2, 3, chain 3, slip stitch in the top, and then 2 more double crochets. Okay, so go ahead, I'll go ahead and show you the corners, and go ahead and work this all the way around the rest of the blanket, and making sure that you do the corners in the same manner. At the end of this final round, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3, just like that, and I'm going to give it a chain and tug and give it a little pull there, and go ahead and clip a nice long strand so that we can hide these loose strands. So let me go ahead and show you how to hide this particular strand, and you'll have a lot of practice on this with all the strands along the edge for hiding these. Okay, there is no right or wrong side so much on this particular baby blanket, but you want to take this and bring it down into the stitches like so. And since this is a variegated kind of color, let's go ahead and bring it down here. It should actually be kind of easy to hide, and I'm actually going to hide it under all of these double crochets because that's a great place to hide loose strands. Okay, I'm going to bring it under all of those. See that? I doubt this is going to go anywhere, so give a little tug there and clip closely, but make sure that you don't clip your crochet. And that stitch is now hidden from sight. And so now all I need to do is continue to hide all of these other strands.
Well, I hope you enjoyed making this baby blanket with me today. If you did, if you could just hit that little bell, that'll let me know that you enjoyed it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of the new offerings that I have coming your way. God bless. Bye-bye.